So, hello everybody. My name is Balázs. We are here with the Dashcore Group Development Update today. We are planning this session for 1 hour, and we are planning a Q&A session at the end. So please give us your feedback in the live chat below. If you have any questions that you would like to ask regarding the topic, please include the context of that question, so we will know when we get back to it at the end, at the Q&A session. Without further ado, let's start with the platform teams, and let's start with a summary. Sam?
Yep, sure. So this last 2 weeks was heavily focused on just fixing bugs. We paused a lot of, that's really one of the main points of the testing phase. And our main goal was to get something stable onto testnet. We released a version to testnet and it kept on breaking. Not great, but that is something that we, is expected to happen. And now it's no longer breaking. It's been a massive achievement. The version that we released on Friday has been stable and hasn't broke since we released, was it on Friday? No, Thursday, I think. So it's been multiple days now, and things are going well. The tests keep on working against it, and it seems to be pretty stable at this point. So things have gone very well. So let's, so Ivan, Igor, Lukasz, and myself, we were working on testing and adding fixes. StateSync was worked on by Wisdom. We have the platform terminal interface worked on by Evgeny, and I worked on masternode voting. Because there hasn't been, most of my work was fixing bugs, I'm going to personally talk about only fixing bugs in this, because for masternode voting, it wasn't finished. And yes, I want to focus today on the fixes that I made. Okay, let's go on. So
let's start with Igor.
Yeah, thanks, Igor.
Hello, guys. So I participated in a small part of the logging improvements overall across our project. And this sprint, I added some logging to DAPI client. Previously, we didn't have logs here. And DAPI client is our transport layer in JavaScript toolkit. And it is responsible for all the network requests and handling some low-level transport stuff. So now we will know which request went to which node with the IP address and with the arguments and etc. And generally, it will come very handy in our Dash network CI, where sometimes if test is failing, we have no idea where the latest request went to. So this will help us to identify problematic nodes in the network much quicker. So that's it from my side on the logging side, and handing over microphone to Lukasz.
Hi, so I will talk about what I did and what Ivan did, who couldn't join us. So basically the problem statement that we were facing was that during tests, there were many issues that we were not able to easily identify. So we did quite a big effort in terms of improvement of what we log and how we do that, both in terms of logging only relevant information and removing some logs that were just messing up with the log file and didn't give us value, especially in tender dash, as well as configuring logging in Drive, which wasn't fully implemented yet. So basically, this effort included some compatibility with the log rotate that is used to rotate logs every day, for example, so that they don't fill up the whole disk space. In TenderDash, we have ability to create a separate log file that is needed for our system to gather logs, because these logs are then delivered to Elasticsearch and to the logging infrastructure we have. And we also increased verbosity or added additional log places in GroveDB, in Drive, where we update Quorum info, and last part of this effort was to add configuration of logging destination and log levels to Dashmate. So this effort is, let's say, it's almost done. It's in review. We are just finalizing some details. Hopefully, we'll merge it within the next day or two. And that's it in terms of logging.
Sure, I think I'll take over this, right? So one other thing that was done, it was kind of on our radar for a long time, but it happened in an actual test that we were using, or like it happened in real life, and then we realized, okay, we really need to deal with this, is homograph attacks in DPNS. This basically means that if you have like somebody who has a name, let's say Samuel, right? The L there looks very much like a 1. So under some fonts, let's say I had the username Samuel and somebody else had the username Samu and 1 at the end. They could be seen as being me, right? So it's actually very simple to mitigate this attack. All you have to do is create a unique index on the 58 characters that form kind of the base looks like in the alphanumeric dictionary. So we have or alphabet alpha, I guess, yes, I could say it's an alphabet character set is the word I'm looking for. So yeah, base 58, I think some people might have heard about it. It's used in Bitcoin and Dash to have kind of addresses that don't have 2 characters that look alike. Well, you can also use the same thing to make unique indexes that can't overlap with other things that would look about the same in words. So yeah, that's in progress. Yeah, there was also, we've talked about error handling a lot before. There was just a lot of more error handling that we added, error codes. Oh, wait, Igor, were you going to talk about this or should I?
Well, actually, yes, this is supposed to be covered by me. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think I partially reported that on the last sprint review because back then this task was in progress. So first bullet point saying that about error codes in handlers is basically add more clear and standardized, provides more clear and standardized error communication for our drive if we consider it a microservice. So yeah, on many different errors, we are now responding with different error codes that actually compliant with the gRPC protocol. We went this way because we considered that they did quite good work here and covered almost any need of yours when you need to respond to some caller, even though we are actually not communicating with Drive with gRPC. We just made it compliant to cover most of the cases. And next thing that is progress, I think I briefly went over that on the last sprint review as well. It's about improvements. It's about separation, actually. Currently, due to the hurrying and tight deadlines, any error happening in some handler in Drive was considered as was treated as validation error and sent back to user, saying to him like, well, it's you did something wrong. But in fact, we should have done better separation here and we should have only validated user input params like limit or like something in the query, for example. And in case we had some misuse or programming error in our own code, we should have handled it as an internal error and throw something similar to 502 error in HTTP. We don't have such code, but it's just as to give you an example of how it should look. And this job is in progress and ongoing. And then I'm switching to the next bullet point. It is about Rust-Core RPC library updates according to the changes in recent versions of Quorum, V20 and ongoing. Generally, this library was kind of not maintained well because we had a major Core Rust library update here and many tests. Even compilation of the code was failing. So this is now fixed, but we still have some work to do to cover incompatibility between the code in Rust and between the actual responses and request signatures that provided by our core RPC. So yeah, generally it's about maintaining this transport layer, transport communication layer for our microservices. And last, it's about smoke tests, just some improvements in this area as well to assist our support team and our infrastructure team that actually checking these tests. They use it as a sanity check right after the deployment. So the more clear and concise and well descriptive test, the better for them and the best they could react and communicate issues to dev team. So generally, we covered some flaky issues and probably caused by not synchronized state of chain in the beginning right after deployment. So just improved reliability in this area and updated seed node tests to the new seed infrastructure. I think that's it on this slide. Let's switch over to the next one and see. Yeah, the next thing is about is infrastructural thing. And we had an issue with failing certificate renewal on HPMN 11. That was fixed. And also we had a bug in Dashmate that was preventing us from renewing SSL automatically. It is done as well. Let's go to the next slide. And yeah, and I'm handing over microphone to Lukasz again because yeah, it's his.
Yeah, so basically in this sprint, I was able to get back to the Rust SDK topic a bit, working on some mocking and tests. Mocking is very tricky in terms of how it works and how it should be implemented in the most optimal way, but I feel like we got a good approach right now. It's almost done for RS DAPI client, which is just a low-level connectivity client. We can mock requests and responses there quite easily. And now I need to do similar approach in the SDK itself, which is a higher layer of the system of the SDK that we are working on. But it was a kind of side tasks. Besides that, because I was mainly focused on the testnet topics. So another feature that was implemented in order to help testing the testnet was a CLI to verify integrity of the GroveDB hashes. At this point, we can either use a special command that is just drive APCI space verify that we run the verification, but we can also create a file, and on startup, the verification will be executed automatically if that file exists. It's done in order to make Dockerized drive easier to verify that, to run that verification, because we need to shut down drive before we do that process. So basically, you can just create a file, restart drive, and it will verify on start. And last topic here is that we had some CI/CD issues with our hosted runners. In order to optimize performance and do other interesting stuff that speeds up the build process on our CI/CD, we use GitHub workflows and actions on our hosted runners that are just provisioning new runners as they are needed in AWS. However, there was a weird issue that some runners didn't start their jobs. They just started and waited for something. Nobody knows what, and then they were decommissioned. It turned out that there is some issue with disk names. So when you start an instance, the disk name in Linux can change between runs, even on the same hardware. And due to that, some scripts failed, and it was really tricky thing to investigate and to fix, but we managed to do that. So that's it from me for that slide.
Cool. I'm going to give a quick overview of like where we're at for this version, and before we continue on with explaining some of the actual bugs that we faced. Where we were 2 weeks ago is we were at the activation phase. The activation had happened. Now we kind of it's hard to say we finished the stabilization phase. We didn't finish like the stabilization phase, but we finished the stabilization phase for this version. So, now it seems stable. I mean, it's out there. Please use it. Please break it again, so we can fix more issues. So community members, now it's the time to use it as much as possible, and so we can get some real world usage in there to see if there's a problem. We did release the JS SDK, but we didn't release the official version 25, or also known as beta 1. We're going to be doing that momentarily. So let's
one thing to note here that dev version is actually available. You just have to specify the version at the tail of the command, like npm install at v25 dot something. You could check the whole list at the npm page of the dash package. So it just does automatically if you just do npm install dash.
Yeah, so it's released. It's just not like the non-dev version hasn't been released, but you can use it. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Oh, yes, this one first. Evgeny?
Yes, hello. So platform TUI update. Quick reminder, platform TUI is a separate tool that we have to query data from platform or trigger state transition. So like developers or testers toolkit. And for 2 weeks, we worked on improvements. So application framework is done. And also one scenario is also done. It is getting identity by ID. So just to arrange how widgets would work, so the whole application together, just to make one screen work. So it's a big milestone, and we'll have a demo for it. And still, we have missing parts for proofs. So it's not integrated with RS SDK yet. So the demo will be for getting identity without proof. And also minor UI issues like glitches because of screen redrawing and error handling is not done yet properly. So if demo gods won't have mercy, it will fail. And status bar also. So it will block when we query the platform or on the network, but it's fine for now. So minors, and also Yeah, we cannot create state transitions right now. So it's something to do next, because we need to load an identity, like for a client, a private key to sign state transition. So it's something will be done next. And now it's demo time for, how can I? Yeah, share screen. Does it work?
Yep.
For some reason. Oh no, it's back. It's back to normal. All right. So a flashbang. So the UI is pretty simple. We have a screen. The information will be shown, like what we fetched or what we're about to post. It depends. And below it, we have a command palette. So the idea is to quickly navigate using just single keystrokes and a status bar below that it shows where we're at. So let me show, like, press I and I go into identity screens. I can go deeper if I want to get identity. And yes, we have flags, so you can trigger with proof or without proof. Right now it's by default without proof because, as I mentioned, the SDK is not yet here. So if you want to get by ID and identity, it expects an identity ID in base 58. So you saw the glitches right now because of skin redrawing too much. Below, test 1 and test 2 are so this input also should support completions. So we could check what we previously used, or depending on the context, it would provide some completions. So we want to make it as more interactive as possible, this application. Right now it's just hard-coded, just orange how it would look like. So enter. Yay, we accessed DevNet. And the node responded for this identity. It was parsed and shown as TOML, just a human readable format. Its name, balance, and 2 public keys. Beautiful. And we can go back. Maybe contracts. Contracts not done. But still, we can navigate here and actually quit because I'm done. That was it.
Cool. Thanks, Evgeny. Just so people watching understand, this will be more of like a developer tool. This will not be a user tool. That's why we're doing it in terminal, where developers are very happy to live.
The developers are the users.
Yeah, developers are the users of this terminal interface. And we're also going to use it to start to hammer platform with, thousands of state transitions when we get there soon, right? So we can test the load on our network per second and how well it responds, and if queries can still happen when the network's under a massive load, things like that. But first, we just needed a UI, and now we have a UI and, the first basic thing. So thanks, Evgeny. That was very nice.
Thank you.
Shall we move forward with the major issues? Or...
Yeah. So yeah. That sounds good. So I'll take the major issues that we faced, and these are kind of like an explanation of what issues, the big issues we had and why they were so hard to fix, and how we fix them. So I'm basically going to read these slides. It's not great, but a major feature we had were in just-in-time updates. Just-in-time updates allow Drive to store information about the cost of an operation in the operation itself. This is an example. The state has a document that is a car. You can put anything in the state. You could put, just any type of information. And we say that the car is blue, and you're allowed to change in this contract. You're allowed to change the color of the car. So if you changed it from blue to orange, blue has 4 characters, orange has 6 characters. So orange is 2 bytes longer than blue, 2 characters longer. So when we push, if we've changed epochs, there's actually like a very kind of complex fee system that exists between different times where the fees are not exactly the same. And on update, we don't know in advance before we push information into GroveDB how much things are going to cost for us. So we have something called just-in-time updates. Basically, on the push to GroveDB, it will calculate that before we had 4 bytes, we're adding 2 bytes, and we'll ask the client application in callbacks basically what to do and how to store the additional cost before we save it to disk. Since we have to actually store the fee cost to be able to give fees back for users if they delete documents, yeah, it's a little bit of a complicated situation, but yeah. So on update, we see that things got 2 bytes longer, and Drive only finds out about the increase of size at the time of insertion. One other thing is that, it actually could be more than 2 bytes. There's for people that are in computer science, they'll understand that we're storing the actual sizes of the bytes with a variant prefix, and variants can get bigger depending on the size of the variant. So yeah, it's a somewhat complex system that I won't go too much more in detail. So now, how do we fix it? Next slide, please. So there was a simplification that was being done before, and it was that the just-in-time update was being done at the commit time in GroveDB. So when we were making all these changes, and then when we were committing it to save it, we were updating things, just-in-time updates. And this was an oversimplification that when I wrote originally, I thought it worked. But then I realized recently that actually no, because we update the value hash and we update the merge tree not at the commit time, but actually at the insertion time. So what we needed to do is rewrite a massive amount of code to be able to do just-in-time updates at insertion, replace, or basically any operation on the tree, and not at commit time. So we had to do it at the time of merge tree propagation, and that's all done now. And it actually solved another issue when we wrote this in. We were seeing a discrepancy in the cost of updating a tree node by around 30 bytes, and it had actually plagued us for quite some time. We didn't, as it's a processing cost, it wasn't as essential to solve, but basically doing this just-in-time updates at propagation time and insertion time fixed everything. And it's all done, and it's been merged in, and this problem is one of the past. So yay! Let us go on to major issue number 2, Stack Overflow. It actually was made visible by the previous issue, as that fix required slightly more memory. We got into a Stack Overflow. So very quickly, for people who don't know what a Stack Overflow is, computers generally have 2 types of memory, the stack and the heap. I won't go too deep into how it works for computers, but I mean, it's quite interesting if anybody wants to read up on it. And by default, Rust threads have a stack size of 2 megabytes. And I mean, the stack memory is actually extremely small. It's only meant for pointers and for integers and for like very small amounts of variables that are pretty small. And so it's very weird to see even 2 megabytes overflow. It's generally always because of recursion. You rarely see it when you don't recurse. And lo and behold, it was because of recursion. But what was so strange about this issue, why it caused so much havoc for us, is that it was not happening on Macs. And a lot of us program with Macs. So we were not seeing that, except when we ran it in our continuous integration and like our tests when we push our code out. It was happening. So we actually couldn't debug this on our own computers. We had to do it on Linux computers that were experiencing the issue on on VPSs. So let's go on to the next issue. And I mean, this was actually the same issue. So let me explain what it was and how we solved it. So it was actually an issue in deletion in GroveDB, and it was using a linear recursive function. So when you're using recursion, you should pretty much only use recursion if the recursion itself is going to be logarithmic, meaning that it's good for being used in trees. But in this case specifically, we had a tree, right? And if you would delete an element at the very top, what would happen is the tree would reorganize first, and a new element would go to the top. But if you're trying to delete the entire tree, what actually happens is like a tree goes down like this. Imagine tons of nodes. If you're always trying to delete the top and you're doing it recursively, you delete the top, something else becomes the top, you delete the top, something else becomes the top of the tree. And basically your recursion is now linear because you're going to have as many stacks as the amount of deletes that you want to have. This is very bad, very bad. So this was actually not written by us. It came from an upstream code. Remember that while GroveDB and like the ability to have like multiple mercs was completely written by us, the original code for the AVL tree we got from an upstream project, and then we've modified it a lot since then. However, some of it still existed, and this was actually one of those issues. I actually found it in the upstream code as well, and it's still there. So yeah, we'll fix it. But in the meantime, since it was an actually pretty big fix, we did some things to mitigate it for now, and we will have it fixed in the upcoming weeks completely by completely removing the recursion. Can we go back? Sorry, I wasn't finished. Yeah, so for right now, what we've done is we reduced a lot of the stack calls. There was some inefficiencies there. And yeah, we there are ways to reduce the memory kept in stack if you like focus on the optimization. And yeah, that was all done. And inside of platform, we don't even use this anymore. We introduced a new method called merc clear that basically takes the entire tree and deletes it instead of deleting every single element. And this led to massive improvements in performance already on the blocks where we were having to do a merc clear. So yay. All done for now. Platform quorum info non-determinism. Yes. Another issue that we had was that when we queried core, there was some quorum information that was in a hash map. Now, we try very heavily not to use hash maps in platform, but this was actually used in the in a client library of platform. And yeah, it led to a non-determinism issue. A little bit hard to find, but we found it, and like to thank Yvonne for this one. Masternode voter key issue, not really a major issue, but it caused some problem. We were adding a voter key to the operator instead of to the voter. It was causing some issue because when we were trying to delete the key, if the masternode stopped existing, then we couldn't, because it was not there. It was on the wrong voter. It was on the wrong identity. In platform, the voter, the operator, and the owner are different identities because they could be technically different identities, and they have different things that they can do in the system. Yeah, cool. So we talked about the first two issues right now in GroveDB, just-in-time cost bug, reduced recursion depth during deletion. So let's give it to Wisdom to talk about the rest. Wisdom?
Hey guys, my name is Wisdom from the GroveDB team. So yeah, we talked about the first two already. Then the merge state sync PL is ready, and it's in review now. I believe it will be reviewed tomorrow, so we'll get that merged in soon. Then the GroveDB state sync PL, I'm finalizing that, and that will be in review very soon. So something else we worked on was adding a clear method to the merge, which Sam hinted at, which just basically, rather than the inefficient way it was done in Drive, we now did a slightly better way directly in GroveDB. So Drive just calls that. And another thing we did was to improve the verify function for GroveDB. So the just-in-time cost bug, we didn't notice it before because the verify function didn't catch that. So after noticing the bug, then we used the learnings from that to update the verify function. So now we are checking the items. We're checking the value hash computations for each item in the tree, which is what we missed. And that's why we didn't detect the bug earlier. So those have been completed and have been merged. So that's all.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to the core team. Ori, could you kick us off?
Yep. Hello, guys. So quick update from core side. So currently on mainnet, we have 74 even nodes registered. No, 73, sorry. Even nodes are registered and running. Reminder that the LLMQ quorum that will be used for platform has a size of 100 even nodes required with a minimum size of 80. So we need at least 7 more enabled to form this quorum for platform. All right. Regarding V20 development, we are are getting very close to the final release. So the decentralized randomness, asset locks, elimination of Sentinel were done. Since last time, the proposal for block reward reallocation, 60% masternodes, 20 miners, and 20 the treasury, was since it was accepted, then we implemented it, and it was merged. So let me just quickly explain the difference between this and the masternode reward location reallocation. So those things are two separate parts. The second one reallocates the block reward into the proportion that I described. And the first one, so the masternode reward location reallocation, one part of the masternode reward and gives the reward to platform. So those are independent from each other. So GUIX was done as well. So the last thing that needs to be implemented for the V20 release is the enhanced hard fork implementation, currently still under review. So we'll have something soon. Regarding V21 development, the shared masternodes are being implemented and designed as well. So we still have some things to analyze and take decision for the final implementation. As always, please have a look on the list of merged PRs and feel free to ask any question for us. Pasta, could you please tell us about the V20 release plan?
Yeah, so I'm going to stay on this slide for just a sec. I want to emphasize a little bit more. We have finally completed implementation and testing of GUIX, and we found a couple of bugs in how Qt ends up looking when we build with GUIX. Those now have been fixed, but beta 2 was delivered in this kind of, last 2-week period, and that was built and delivered using GUIX. The final version of V20 will also be built and delivered using GUIX. So Gideon is more or less done for us. And this brings a number of benefits. The biggest one being having direct binaries for M1 MacBooks. So we now have direct binaries for M1 or for ARM Mac. We've had ARM for Linux for a long time, but this migration to GUIX finally enables us to deliver ARM for Mac. So I'm really pretty excited about that. We got all the testing done. All of our processes are figured out now with delivering that, and everything is nice and solid. So yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that a little bit more. But otherwise, yeah, we can go to the next slide now, Balash. Okay, so the original plan was to deliver RC1 basically tomorrow. We're not quite there yet. We have now merged in the block reward reallocation from proposal that was merged in today. And EHF, the masternode hard fork, has made really good progress since last week, but we're not quite ready for merging that one in yet. We had a couple of issues that Constantine was dealing with on that, but we were able to figure most of those out today. And so that should be getting merged in the pretty near future. So the gist is RC1 probably not going to happen today or tomorrow, but it still looks relatively promising, potentially later this week. It really just depends on how quickly we can wrap up the enhanced hard fork. The changes to asset locks are really quite simple and will take less than a day to implement. But yeah, RC1 is coming in the pretty near future, but not today or tomorrow. Otherwise, the rest of the timeline remains intact. RC1 getting pushed back a couple of days doesn't yet have any implications on the rest of the timeline. All right, I think we are good and we can move on to mobile, Balázs.
Thank you very much. Let's move on. I invite Brian to the stage.
You guys, yeah, you can progress to the next slide there, Balázs. So yeah, really productive sprints on both Android and iOS. We wrapped up everything that we planned in our sprint. It was great. We had a bit of rollover from the last one, so some of these things you'll see repeated a little bit. But yeah, very productive. Our upgrade to Core V20 was done. We still might have to do a couple small things once the final release candidate comes out, but we're at least compatible with what we had out there now. Username voting, we wrapped up all the stories that we could for the UI. We're still waiting for the platform feature to be out before we can do the backend work. But pretty much all the UI work is done. There's, as a reminder, 2 components to this. There's the request element where the users will request a username, and then there's the voting component where masternodes would vote. So that UI is all done on Android. The CoinJoin work continues, and we're going to be starting pretty much everything to date has been backend work. We had a couple small UI pieces that we did, but now that we've gone to a new approach where we're mixing the entire balance, we have a few new UIs that we have to do. So we'll be doing that next. We did finish the UI work for the Maya on-ramp, at least the first 2. We're holding off for now just until we finish up some more Dash-based stuff to keep that as a priority. But we did make some progress on the first pieces there. Topper on-ramp, we had to hide that until we finished up some stuff. So that was finished. We brought it back into the UI. That was released as part of 9.1. And then, yeah, we have some changes to Coinbase. Unfortunately, that feature is going to have some reduced functionality in an upcoming release because of some of the things that they've deprecated there. So some more communication will come out on that once we finish that work, and a couple small bugs. So that's it on Android. If you want to move to the next slide. iOS also pretty productive. The only thing that we still kind of working on is the FFI macro. There's still a couple other elements that we just brought into our current sprint as well for the macro. This is all required both for platform and for the rest of the mobile upgrade to 25. The topper on-ramp was also put into iOS. That was part of the 7.1 release that went out over the weekend as well. And a couple UI polishing stories for Dash Pay and a few bugs were fixed. So that's pretty much it there on mobile. I guess the only other thing to mention is once we do get closer to having all of our CoinJoin and private username stuff wrapped up, I am going to start reaching out to the community for a beta on testnet. Just because there's quite a lot of things that need to be tested. I'm sure we're going to get some other feedback on future improvements that we might want to consider. So that hopefully will be coming within the next month or so. So yeah, keep your eye out for if you want to be part of that beta program. And that's it for mobile.
All right, thank you very much. So let's move on to the question, the Q&A session. First, I see that some of you already helped out others and answered questions in the chat, which is wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm trying to filter these out and see the questions unanswered. So the first question is, the logging improvements will come with the next release dev 33 ? And when might that be? when,
Yeah,
Sam, would
sure.
you take it?
Yeah. So yes, well, we've been doing continuous logging improvements. So the one that was released on Thursday had logging improvements or whatever. I think it was dev 31 or 32, one of those. And yeah, so as we have logging, it's not like logging improvements are all done and then put in. We're just continuously putting in more and more logs to find issues or be able to find issues or figure out what they are. So yeah, we are going to continuously add more and more logs to the system. So when we do have an issue, we're able to easily figure it out. We're going to do it even in such a way that we're going to take GroveDB and every single block take a snapshot of GroveDB, so we can know at every single block the state and all the things that were applied to the state. So if we get into any like really complex bugs, it will be almost immediately visible to us. Obviously, this adds gigabytes and gigabytes of extra data on every node, but it's fine for this testing phase.
All right, thank you very much. In the roadmap, some time ago, inter-blockchain communication compatibility appeared among the objectives to be achieved. Now, this wording no longer appears. Why?
I was not made aware that it was removed. Brian, did we remove it?
Sorry, that was a surprise to me as well. I just looked at the site. I'll have to go back to my notes if that was intentional or not. But it was back in the end of August that we last updated the website. So I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, I think most likely if it's not there, it was more of a mistake when we were updating. It's obviously not going to happen this year. Sorry, guys. But yeah, it will. We will have inter-blockchain communication, most likely in version 2 or version 3.
All right, thank you very much.
Only in version 3. Version 2 is going to be, you know, the fast follower updates that we need.
All right, thank you for sharing this. Maybe two more questions. And what number of Evo nodes has been put forth as ideal as for a minimum?
So the minimum we need, the minimum we need is around 90. Ideal would be about 360.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, you don't have to get to the ideal, right? That's just where the fees between master nodes and Evo nodes are completely, you know, equal. But anything above, let's say, I would say 110 would make platform work extremely well.
All right,
So,
thank you very much.
We don't need to go much further high for platform. It's just more that it's best to have the fees balance out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So next question I see, is DCG currently good on budget? And I leave the interpretation of this question to you guys, or if you want to answer it on the dev update.
Well, I'll answer as best I can. We have made a lot of cuts. We've had to lay off people. We also haven't added people that we haven't like re-added people that had left. So, we have a much leaner team than we used to have. And with that, we are still on a small deficit. So we are good on budget for the upcoming month or two. But after that, things would be pretty difficult. We did pass the doubling of the treasury proposal. But yeah, right now, our main goal is to ship platform and get platform out, with V20 getting out, and then the platform, the treasury reallocation will happen, and we will request a little bit more budget from the treasury. Well, a lot more budget from the treasury at that point to pay our people, the people that are in this call and a few others. So are we good on budget? It's tight. That's all I can say, but we're managing.
All right, thank you very much for sharing. I don't see any further questions. So do we have anything else we would like to cover? And we have a message for Pasta. If Pasta sees this, would he consider watching XK series MN over Tor presentation and giving his take on it when he has some time in the future?
Probably yes. Did they say it was a presentation? If so, feel free to send me a link on Discord or something like that. And yeah, that sounds interesting. So I'll take a look.
All right. Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for joining, having a conversation, asking questions and giving us feedback. Wish you good luck and see you in 2 weeks. Thanks.